Here on KELK, we're featuring our regular update in local law enforcement news. We have today our Elko County Sheriff, Aitor Narvaeza, alongside the City Police Chief, Tyler Troughton, and we really appreciate you gentlemen both being here today. It's kind of an odd week. We're trying to figure it out, right? Yeah.
Day after Christmas. Merry Christmas, right?
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everybody. Yeah, for sure. It's great to be here and to, we'll kind of get caught up in some of the local happenings and maybe look back on some of the most rewarding moments, I guess, for law enforcement in the previous year. Any regrets? I mean, anything to look forward to, obviously. So this is a time of year where a lot of people are kind of making some resolutions, I guess you could say, right, Chief? So I guess the first thing we should talk about, there was an accident that was very serious in which some juveniles riding OHVs were hurt at 5th and Sage Street. Chief Ty Troughton, and I think you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, so very unfortunate. Unfortunately, the one gentleman's still a very serious condition. We understand it's stable, but after dark, riding off-road motorcycles, no lights, and it sounds like they're probably returning from riding off in the BLM property out in the county, whatever, where it's fine to do so. But in coming down, they were, sounds like in the crosswalk, got hit by a vehicle. Very difficult to see at night. Very unfortunate. We've got a driver that's messed up. We got 2 juveniles that are injured, and really just not a wise move. So, we've tried to reiterate to the public that, they were wearing their helmets, which is good, but anybody doing this, they need to be licensed. And if you're on those vehicles, you're expected to be acting as a vehicle, not as a pedestrian or, a bicyclist. And if you don't have the lights, it's probably time to call somebody to come pick you up, not try to ride through town. Unfortunately, that's right at the busy time of our traffic in the afternoons. It's just not a good thing. The city and the county over the years have kind of relaxed to allow off-road vehicles to ride in the city, but there's some very specific parameters about that. You have to be licensed. You need to be wearing helmets on most of them. You need or should have signals or be able to give hand signals. Of course, those signals don't work so well at night. Just very unfortunate. And I know we get a lot of complaints of specifically kids on dirt bikes who are riding recklessly in the neighborhoods, both in speed or popping wheelies, different things. Kind of painful too. We were just talking about this morning, my lieutenant and I and the undersheriff, Justin Ames. Elko's a rough area for people to ride motorcycles in anyway. Some communities are very familiar with them and it actually gets safer, but here they're a smaller vehicle so people don't see them. We've had several fatalities over the years, some of them result of the motorcycle driver's error, being careless, reckless. But a lot of them are just people not seeing them and hitting them, and they end up losing a limb, they end up being killed, different things like that. So again, folks, just be smart. Parents, pay attention to what your kids are doing or what they're able to do when you're not home, whatever the case may be, and reiterate to them it can turn deadly just in an instant on something as simple as that.
Yeah, that's really sad. And I don't think that we knew much about the juveniles, assuming teenagers, Ty, or?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, he's not able to hear your, okay.
Something just went off there. I'm not sure if I'm being heard. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
As my understanding, I believe they're roughly sophomores in high school here locally.
Okay. And so it sounds as though it's also a little bit different than, because we have designated routes for people in OHVs like razors, things like that. So this was not really related to recreational riding. As you said, this was a transition probably from the dirt hills to their home.
Yeah, correct. And the code allows them, to traverse from an area to their home or, to a fuel stop, different things like that. But
still, all the requirements.
All the requirements come into play on this stuff.
Mm-hmm. And do you think at some point the city, it seems like maybe we've had more than one accident or not? Or if you do see, for example, up in the Tree Street neighborhood, there's some juveniles that like to ride around on razors. And, you think by the time you call, they're already home, but they don't have helmets. There's 4 or 5 kids packed on the thing, right? You know what I'm getting at. Is it time to revisit this at the council?
I don't know if it would do any good on that aspect either, because like in this case, shouldn't have happened if people were following the laws. Still happens. I think even if you repeal the act that allows OHVs on the road, you're still going to have people doing them. Those existed before. I don't know how many times we've chased four-wheelers and motorcycles and stuff that are strictly off-road vehicles around town.
It just seems weird because it's in the city. We know what happens in the county all the time. Yeah.
And I don't know that we've had a lot of like actual OHV accidents and things like that, but
That's good
we
to
get the
know.
reports of, poor driving habits with some of them. And some people think, you can just drive them. I mean, I can't think how many times you've seen an OHV going over the summit. I'm like,
Really? I know.
Yeah.
Same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, we see them in the trailer section as well too, and we try to be lenient. We look at both aspects and their speed, if they're doing anything reckless, and most of the time they're pretty good. But we've had where we're trying to stop them and they're taking off, right? And we don't really have a chance in catching OHV, so we just terminate and then we just try to find out who it is. Because once they hit off hill, we're not going to bounce around the hills in a truck. 'Cause we don't have a chance to catch them. So it's but if you do run and we catch you, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. And again, the goal is just to prevent people
Yeah.
from getting hurt.
You just
so,
want people to just be safe and
yeah.
well, even, when it comes to bicycles, Elko does not have designated bicycle lanes. And again, cars aren't expecting them. The other hard part is some bicyclists, they'll ride with the flow of traffic. Other ones want to ride down the sidewalk. And then you get the folks who want to do a little bit of everything. It makes you unpredictable when you're doing that. It could be a kid on a little Razor scooter, could be whatever it is. We've had incidents again going over the summit where you see somebody on a scooter that's less than 50 cc's. So therefore, different laws apply and they're impeding traffic. And I'm like, you are asking for an accident. But
Just, yeah.
common sense.
you
to
you
folks.
get these e-bikes and we see them downtown Spring Creek, and those things are fast. They're 25, 30 mile an hour bicycle. And you see them ripping down Idaho Street on the sidewalks and they just come around corners just like anything else. And they just, they have to be careful just like anybody else. And when you're playing that reaction, action, and if they come across front of you, your chances of them getting hit probably going to be pretty well. And so just be careful and watch what you're doing.
And since we'll switch gears here too, but I'm sure I'm not the only one that's noticed, Chief Troughton and Sheriff Narvaeza, that sometimes you see people in motorized wheelchairs and you wonder, should they be on the sidewalk or they don't have flags? It just, my heart goes out to them.
We have that individual up by our street. He's always up on
Oh,
that.
sure.
Yeah, and it's
He seems
he's always on the curb.
Yeah,
and,
yes.
Or and they have to get home just as well like anybody
Absolutely.
else. And like you said, maybe a flag. There's times where I've seen them at nighttime going up the hill, and you don't see them until you get right up on them. And so maybe they just need to put flag or something,
Some lights
something
or
visible
something, yeah.
or markers.
Because you
They
can imagine how badly you would feel if you were the person that struck them, right? I mean, that's the other thing.
Unfortunately, and I know people have angst, I guess, when they're asked to put in curb, gutter, sidewalk around their properties and maintain sidewalks. But you look around Elko, other than a few of the main streets, there's not sidewalks that will allow you to go the full distance on the sidewalk. Same thing as you go up around Lamoille Highway towards Pinion and stuff. And so those people are basically forced, depending on where they live, that they have to roll down the shoulder. It would scare me because the cars, are moving at, 45 miles an hour, then next down to 35. But if they're just not paying attention and wander over to the shoulder, it could be, terrible. And at least on the sidewalk, there's a little bit greater buffer distance between the roadway and where you're at. I know the city's tried to get people to put in their curb gutter sidewalks and doesn't grant exceptions. I think I've seen maybe one over the years here more recently, but folks need to get those in there. But again, it's complicated because we still have islands of county within the city. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of a hodgepodge.
A lot of catch up to do. And speaking of catching up, we're catching up with local law enforcement as we're nearing the end of 2024. We appreciate Sheriff Narvaeza and Chief Troughton for coming in monthly to talk about a variety of issues. Wanted to give you a chance, Sheriff, to talk about any updates on the shootings in Spring Creek that have resulted in property damage.
They're still working that. Per our last conversation you and I had, they're still working on it. There's different agencies involved. We just met with the task force from the state just last week. Lieutenant Fisher went down there and met with the task force. So they're still working on it. So our detectives went with them. They're passing information and see what other agency we can get to help us do it. So we're still looking into it.
All right. Have you had any recent reports or?
No, we haven't had nothing since the last shooting on the vehicle.
Okay. All right. So again, this is sort of a repeat from a year ago, and it's just not something that the sheriff's office wants to revisit.
No, the thing is, how do you? It's tough to catch. Like Chief and I only got X amount of people on patrol, and it's tough to catch somebody who's just driving around randomly shooting. Mm-hmm. It's where do you start, right? And some of these people, the houses were shot at a couple of years ago. They live out of state. They come down they live in another state, winter in a different state, I should say, and then come back and they'll find a bullet hole by the door or up by the upper rafter, and they have no idea when it was done. So some of those reports could be a couple of months old, and by the time we get it. So, but we are working with the state on this one.
All right. We want to make the community aware. Again, no injuries, no people have been hurt, certainly, but plenty of property damage. And it's just scary to think of someone driving around Spring Creek shooting randomly.
Yeah, it's a tough. We had, I believe, what was it, the courthouse last year? One of the windows 2 years ago. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So
yep.
CBS.
So they hit a place here in the city just as well. So it's
it can happen anywhere.
Yeah.
So if you have cameras that can help, make sure you contact local law enforcement because they can always check those out. There is some really good news about, I think this was a joint effort in recovering some $44,000 worth of apparent stolen merchandise out at Spring Creek. And I guess, Chief, that started with your crime suppression unit?
Yeah, correct. So our crime suppression unit, again, they're focused on property crimes, primarily the theft and different things like that. But successful, had located a bunch of items that had recently been stolen, everything from tires to trailers to cargo trailers, different things, firearms. And then I know they just served another search warrant to get more property that the owners came forward and said, hey, I think that might have been my stuff. We're able to identify it. So yeah, it was definitely a good hit. It was a combined unit out in South Fork, involved the county, and we had the narcotics task force involved as well. We've talked before. Most of our theft is related to the drug crimes. And those folks got them in on several charges. So, yeah, and thankfully got the victims back their stuff. I know the unit's been working. When it's seized by a search warrant, it becomes property of the judge until release. So working with the district attorney's office, getting the orders there so we can get these people back their property in a timely fashion so they can continue to use it. And we certainly don't want to be carrying couches and tires up to court in front of a jury. That's a lot of work.
Oh gosh! Of course, our guest today, Chief Ty Trout, and that's reasonable, totally. And again, just good work between the different agencies, Sheriff, in recovering that property and getting the suspects in jail.
Yeah, if it was turned the other way, we'd call Ty and we'd work alongside with them in the state. We're a small agency, the city, the county, the state. So the more the merrier. Chief Trent and I don't really care who's involved as long as we get the job done. And if it takes 5 agencies, we're going to do it.
It's fortunate that we have that kind of relationship. Not all counties do, so that's worth noting.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's just recently that time of year too, but we see that in everything from shop with a cop to, actual crimes investigating, working together. Some areas they can't even get along long enough to do a shop with a cop event. They each have their own, so that's one of our strengths out here.
Yeah, definitely. And by the way, congratulations on another huge successful shop with a cop event. Hundreds of youngsters, their holidays were made brighter and they were able to provide for their families.
It's nice. Each kid gets a lot of money, and what's nice is when you see an individual, instead of spending all the money on him, he might buy his little sister a jacket, or might buy my sister a shoe, or vice versa, a brother or something. So they know they take care of their own as well, too, and that's really nice to see.
Yeah, so thanks for continuing to support that effort. It's a nonprofit in our community. And we also wanted to mention, Sheriff, I think that you had mentioned that you are the Highway Patrol's investigating, but we did have a fatal accident in Lamoille Canyon.
Yeah, we did. We had a fatal accident this weekend. 34-year-old male. He was considered deceased on scene when deputies arrived, and we obviously did the accident. Highway Patrol's doing the speed workup and the speed investigation. We took care of the accident and the coroner stuff, and so we don't know if their alcohol was a factor or not. I couldn't tell you that until we get all the results from the medical examiner's office, and we'll go from there. Unfortunately, it was just the day before Christmas, and it's just a bad thing to notify their parents that their son or daughter had been passed away in a car accident. And it's a pretty tough deal for our guys than anybody else.
Yeah, I'm certainly sorry about that, Sheriff. And that was in Lamoille Canyon, a single vehicle, one person involved?
Yeah,
Okay.
one person, one individual, and it was pronounced deceased on scene. So.
Okay, and that was on Christmas Eve. And then there was a fatal in Wendover that doesn't involve us locally, but it's just something you're aware of.
Yeah, they had a fatal. A young woman was passenger vehicle and she was killed. Wendover PD is actually doing the investigation. We just did the coroner work, and Highway Patrol is also assisting them with the speed workup and gathering evidence, because there was videos from residences that supposedly his vehicle was speeding, and so they're looking into all that and see what they come up with. So 2 fatals this week.
Yeah, and that's, I think it's important to underscore that we do need to look out for the mental health of our emergency responders, Chief. I know it's something that you both try to, remain aware of and provide support for your staff, your officers, whenever you can.
Yeah, and there's always things growing along those lines. Tyler Ingram, our district attorney, was at a conference or training and found another idea. So we're always looking to grow and expand those things. There's still a lot of holes in the overall, I guess, structure of what we'd like to have available here, not just for officers, but for the entire community. But, every year we seem to grow a little bit more and get a little bit closer along all those things. We know that mental health for officers, for our public, is a huge issue. Simply put, a lot of the folks that we do deal with are suffering mental health issues as well.
Yeah, and I would think, too, being in first response, whether you're an emergency medical provider, just recently interviewed Carrie Hunton, who's our, lead dispatch. Yeah, amazing person, amazing people. It's got to take a toll, and you kind of lose your faith in humanity a little bit. It takes a special person to keep doing this.
It really does.
Yeah.
Well, as I was going to say, the hard part is there's a couple ways you deal with it. You can't let it affect you because you have a job to do, and that's what you need to get done. It does affect you, and so then it comes down to how do you deal with it, where can you release that, and just maybe the frequency of things. I would think the vast majority of the public probably doesn't deal with a dead body even.
Ever, let alone. Yeah.
They probably, maybe at a wake or, at funeral services, but not otherwise. And even then, most of them are probably in a, serene state. It's a natural causes of death, pass away at home, something along those lines. We deal with everything from, infants all the way up that oftentimes are severely abused, mangled, just horrible things. And it affects you greatly. Mm-hmm. So
we need to continue to be aware and be supportive. And,
we had, I believe that a couple of days ago, we had 3 dead bodies, elderly, natural causes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We had 3 in one day, and then we had car accidents, and I think we had another one. I believe we had like 6 total for 4 days, right? So we're pushing about 170 bodies this year already, and we still got another week left. So hopefully we slow down quite a bit, and age is age, and nobody wants to see their loved ones go, but vehicle accidents, that kind of stuff could be done differently.
So sort of along the same lines, but shifting a little bit, Sheriff and Chief, do you think that there's a point in time where rural Nevada, even Elko County, could be the seat where we get our own medical examiner's office? I mean, are we not?
No,
It just
Well,
seems
you're
like
talking. Boy, I don't know if you could do it. You're talking.
the budget for that, huh?
You're talking. Well, you figure we've done 170 dead bodies this year, and that's just Elko County. And you figure the medical examiners does Washoe, all this. They have Vegas and Washoe is only two places they do it. And Vegas does probably 5 times much more than we do.
Mm-hmm.
And so does Reno. So you'd have to have a big medical staff. You'd have to have a facility. You're talking probably millions and millions of dollars.
Would surpass what we certainly could provide.
I know we've talked about at the city level over the years of even creating a small crime lab, able to do, blood DUIs, drug identification, marijuana, meth, different things like that. And it really is cost prohibitive. And the hard part is, right now we're one of 15 counties that utilize Washoe, or 13 counties. So we're really just waiting in line. The other hard part is even like at a state level, the toxicologies are not processed in state. They have to be sent out. We've had cases where it's 9+ months to get toxicology reports back. I don't want to seem as if I'm casting the burden off on the state, but it would be nice if there was a state crime lab, even if we started bifurcating which labs did what kind of services, just to expedite these things. You remember well here, it's not been that long ago, the backlog of DNA cases on sexual assaults and things. It would be nice if they could have some satellite labs that maybe did some of the lesser things, allow their people to specialize in some of the greater, more in-depth things. It would be great, but I think there's probably appetite, but that appetite gets a little diminished when you see the price tag.
Talking with our police chief, Ty Troughton, we are heading into a legislative year, Chief, and I know that you're one to really keep up on that. Is there anything that's looming or that maybe you're involved in that you'd like to see considered this session?
Well, I'm optimistic. I've spoken with now Senator Ellison. I've spoken to several folks. I know the sheriffs and chiefs, spoken to multitude, both as a group and individually. There are some laws we'd like to see changed. One of the biggest things I think that is hurting all law enforcement and as well very much hurting our communities is all this bail reform that allows these people to continually be recycled in and out of jail without ever having to spend any time in there significantly. And it's not just, I'm not talking about misdemeanor low-level crimes, I'm talking about they're committing felony after felony after felony. Another one we're very concerned about is over the years, the way they've changed the laws, that you're really leaving a lot of these box stores and retail businesses susceptible to groups coming in and just wiping them out. So trying to get some changes on some crimes like that. We've talked about increasing mandated reporters for domestic violence to include medical facilities and so forth. So much like they do for children, child abuse, different things. I think I sent 8 or 9 suggestions to the senator, and hopefully we'll see some traction on some of those.
Well,
Yeah, I agree with what the chief said.
Well, and that's encouraging. I mean, it sounds as though you're really interested in seeing these changes. And I don't know if anybody else is stepping up in rural Nevada, Chief, but thank you for doing that.
Well, and I'm hopeful, in speaking like what the Attorney General said for a long time, it shouldn't be an either-or argument when it comes to addressing criminals. They're wanting to help criminals, destigmatize all these different things. That's fine, but the way the laws are set up now, these folks are committing so many crimes while they're in their, I guess, the throes of addiction and different other issues going on, that you're really hurting them because they're not being placed in custody and held until trial, or, on the second time they commit a felony, they're not being held. So they're racking up multiple charges, which really now diminishes them. They're not just somebody coming out of prison with a felony on the record. They're coming out with multiple felonies for the same thing. I don't think that helps them. Doesn't make them more attractive to be picked up as, if you're an employer. I think it hurts them in the long run. I think the intent might have been good, but the way it manifests needs to be rethought. Okay.
And you're running the jail, Sheriff. We know that. I mean, obviously, that's a huge impact on a community.
Yeah, as this morning we had 115 inmates in there. So we did have a lot of people that were arrested, and some were released on with bail or no bail. And so it's like Chief said, we'd like to keep some of those guys in there, but due to the new laws, Valdez, minute hearings, that they opted to get out. So, we have plenty of room. We don't turn nobody away. So when you commit a crime, expect to spend time in jail or go from there.
We did speak with Commissioner John Carr, too, a week or so ago, Sheriff, about the jail expansion in 2025, and, he's on board. He sees the need.
Oh, it is. We just had a huge fight in there just the other day. One of the inmates had to be tasered and went after staff, and, it's a sad deal, but he was tasered. We had one that tried to escape. Came running out of cell. Luckily, everything was locked down, so he didn't go very far. He couldn't go anywhere, but he still shoved the deputy out of the way and got his hand smashed in the door. Probably lose a couple of nails, but he's okay. And these guys, this is the guy that we were involved in the pursuit with, that stole the ambulance. That guy's not there. I'm telling you, he's steal an ambulance. They had issues with him in Eureka County. Then they brought him here, and then he stole the ambulance, and we got a high-speed pursuit with him, and now he's trying to escape from our jail. So we've had to, every time he'll move, we'll have him move with the response team. But the mental health in the jail is a big deal. We've had these two guys right in the booking area in the last probably 3 weeks. Oh, man, they just scream 24 hours a day. I feel sorry for the staff, but they're screaming and beating on the doors and kicking, and it's a mess,
And if you have the behavioral health unit, then you could at least medicate them because you'd have a nursing staff.
Right. And then I just took two to Lakes Crossing the other day. They were busy with court, and Lieutenant Perry was, so I took a couple and came back with some. So it's a catch-22. We went up there and came back even, So we didn't gain or nothing, but we have to do what we have to do.
How do you feel, Chief, when you hear your colleague describing those stories? I mean, you guys are facing it on the street, and then they're in this confined space with it. That's scary.
I'll have to kind of shelter my thoughts, and perhaps until I'm retired. To me, it's the idiocy of our society to pass these laws and not see what the long-term consequences are, and then just to turn a blind eye to them. We've known for years and years drugs aren't good for you. They do not truly enhance your life. And we keep trying to mitigate, the penalties for these crimes and stuff, yet on the law enforcement side, we see all of the negative consequences that come from the drug use. We'll take the homeless camp, for instance.
We've seen a few arrests from there recently. Yeah.
Well, and all of those folks were people that back when I was working narcotics and working the street, we were arresting for dope crimes. They're not homeless because they got laid off and lost their home, or they're down and out on their luck. They're homeless because they've chosen to pursue a lifetime of drug use and following their addiction. They're not interested in getting help and trying to overcome their addiction, so we just continually recycle them. We call it the merry-go-round. They do something, they get arrested, they go to jail. They're given, according to our new sentencing guidelines, the slap on the hand. If there's fines, they can't pay them. They don't work. What do? Society really needs to get serious and go, look, what is it you want? If you wish to diminish these kinds of crimes and so forth, you have to be hard upon the offenders. You have to do something that is going to have a meaningful effect upon them to either get them to change their lives or to keep them incarcerated so they're not victimizing others. We've had, everything from sexual assaults to, I guess you call it attempted murders, arsons, all kinds of things down at the camp. These people are not in control of their lives. They can't abide by any law because that's just not where their mind is at and working. I know people don't like to see high incarceration numbers, but if you don't have high incarceration numbers in this day and age, you're going to have high crime levels. That's what it comes down to. Many steps in there, like I said, that involves being able to give them significant sentences. What we see in a lot of the folks that are sent to prison is they're given years with all the credits and this and that. They're out within months and back in our community. That means they're going to be out doing the same thing. We just had a pretty good fight down at Stockman's over the last weekend where a wedding reception of all things. Some of the people involved there are folks we're very well acquainted with. And we have an attempted sexual assault, followed by a pretty significant battery, as I understand it, on the individual who did it. These people, I hate to say this, but my optimism for the vast majority of them changing does not exist. they will be doing the same thing probably until the day they die.
You know, I'd like to say, Chief Chan said, you know, some of those guys we've seen been locked up in our facility for 2 to 3 years, fighting in court and stuff, and then they get sentenced, and some of them are out within 4 or 5 months. And they come right back out, and then they go right back into the facility for a different crime. So, you know, Chief called it right. It's a rotating door, and it seems like it's always the same individuals. Like, you know, when I was on the street many, many years ago, there's people that were sentenced 15, 20 years, and now they're still back in there, so they haven't learned yet. So just a big rotating door, and take care of them, and that's all we can do is try to keep that place running and take care of them.
You know, I think a lot of people still believe that there's a 3 strikes you're out type of sentencing structure, which does not exist. If people understood and could see the vast criminal histories for some of these people, I mean, some of them are books. I mean, they're page after page of offenses and convictions and, you know, guilty pleas and stuff. They would be appalled. And, you know, one of the other things, I think this is a bill that's coming up this year, is they want to define recidivism within the state of Nevada as having committed another felony crime within 3 years of release, and you have to be convicted. Well, here's the problem. We know that the courts, between all of the actions that have to take place, the defense attorneys, you know, and everything else, it can be 3 years. You could be arrested within a week of getting released from prison, commit another felony crime, and you may not even see the courtroom for your trial until after that 3 years. Recidivism should be defined as, if you commit another felony crime in your lifetime, you're a recidivist. You're not, you know, rehabilitated. You have returned to crime. Our country as a whole, we don't want to look at the ugly truth of things. We want to placate ourselves and think that we're doing well and doing good. If you're not willing to face the truth of the problem, you're never going to come to a viable solution.
Talking with our Chief Ty Troughton and Sheriff Aitor Narvaeza. Wow, and that's kind of a heavy place to end, and it's okay. It's the reality. That's why we do this, right? Because we need for the community to understand.
You know, I would say that to the judges, they've been doing a hell of a job. They've been prison was here last week. They took 11, so the judges are hammering these guys, and I think in the last 2-3 months we've probably taken 50 people from here to prison. So they're doing a good job. They're knocking them pretty good, you know. But some of these guys, like Chief said, some of these guys been there 2 or 3 times, and at one point you just got to say enough is enough. And so they've been really hammering them. So thanks to the judges.
Well, that's good to know, because it's all about balance. That's what justice is supposed to be, about balance.
Well,
So.
and I think everybody wants to point fingers and blame a specific person or level. And, you know, law enforcement's doing their job. The people, I think, are well aware. Our district attorney's doing their jobs, or his job, very well. The judges are doing their job, too. Really what it comes down to is the legislators have messed things up. But ultimately, it comes right back to the citizens. If you're not actively engaged in this process and tracking what bills are coming out and speaking out on this, it comes right back to the people that are often wanting to place the blame. It's you. If you're not involved in the process, you are part of the problem as well.
Yeah, the lawmakers, I think the more that we understand that they are so distant from the reality of what we are living in, either rural Nevada or even urban cities, you know, communities where these crimes are impacting people and the quality of life. So that's really a good idea. We'll just keep reminding everybody that when these bills come up and you come on and talk about them, that we can encourage people to comment, have unique comments, write letters, emails.
Well, and, you know, this emergency budget that they're trying to pass, I'm sure you're aware of that. And, you know, X becomes involved and people all of a sudden are blowing up the representatives. That's what it's supposed to be. They're supposed to represent the people. But if the people aren't speaking, they'll do what they want to do.
Well, and I will also put in a word, though, in that X is not exactly an independent source of verified information. That's someone's political opinion. So we need to also support legitimate sources, you know.
Not
Yeah.
saying that, but
I know what
just
you-
that
yeah.
it's an avenue of notifying people.
Right.
And when the people speak out, that's powerful. But they have to be aware of what's going on, which means you really need to pay attention. It has to be intentional effort and not just, relying upon somebody else to do that for you.
Absolutely. No, reach out and contact your lawmakers after you listen to programs like this, where we feature the sheriff and the chief, and they're just telling it like it is.
We're just being straight up. That's what happens.
Well, that's it. We need to change the name of the show to Straight Up with Itor and Ty. Yes.
That's right. We can only do so much, but we do our best that we can for this community.
Well, thank you. And thanks for having the confidence and the trust and coming on and talking about what impacts you, what ties your hands. And, we'll kind of close out the program today with, as I suggested maybe in the beginning, there might be some things about 2024 that were really rewarding, or maybe there are some regrets or things that you wished for differently. I don't know, Sheriff, what's on your mind?
For me, I'm just thankful to come to work every day and have the people that I have to come to work with. We deal with so much, from rescues to sexual assault, homicides, and we could piece it all together and make it all get a conviction. So for me, it's just coming to work every day and dealing with the staff. I got good people, chief's got good people, and we work very well together. So I'm just happy.
All right. And I shout out to your undersheriff, to Justin Ames. We've been working closely on, exposing and educating people more about these scams. Yeah, that's we didn't talk about that today because we feel like we're trying to get the word out. But we know your Detective Brad Parvin, he specializes in that, Chief, and that's also been a huge issue.
It is. And again, as the sheriff said, there's always good things, there's always bad things, and things that need to change or improve upon. And of course, then there's always new things that are coming down the pipeline, some new way to scam people. But we're doing our best. We have overall a very good community that supports us, and in all ways that you could be supported. So we just remain optimistic, hope for the best for this next year, and we'll see where it takes us.
All right. So maybe rather than a veggie tray, you can actually write an email to a lawmaker.
I would be all for that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, so much.
Thanks for having us.
We really appreciate it, and our community is safer for your leadership, and thank you. Thank you, listeners, for joining us for Elko Live today, featuring our Elko County Sheriff Itor Narvaeza and our City Police Chief Tyler Troughton.